Benjamin Franklin, the genius of the obvious. Benjamin Franklin is famous for being one of the major figures in bringing independence to the American colonies. But he was also a genius who created practical, everyday things. Many of these inventions seemed obvious combinations and additions to what had already existed before. But of course, these things seem obvious only after Franklin showed the way and invented them. Often called the first American, he used Yankee ingenuity to create usable medical devices, a musical instrument, geographic equipment, and maps. And he was at one time the world's leader in the science of electricity and the design of electrical equipment. That a piece of curved glass could improve vision has been known since the 13th century, with different lenses used, one for distance and another for seeing up close. Despite this long history, it remained for Benjamin Franklin to make the obvious combination, combining two lenses in one frame with a distance lens above and a close-up lens below. Called double spectacles in his day, we now call these bifocals. Franklin's older brother John suffered from a urinary obstruction, a condition made even more uncomfortable by having to use the rigid urinary catheter available at the time. Franklin devised a better solution, a flexible catheter, a tube of hinged silver segments. Although the need and the solution were apparent, it was only Benjamin Franklin who made the connection. In Europe, the music of the mid-1700s was sometimes played by stroking a finger around the rims what were then called singing glasses. Benjamin Franklin, our ambassador to England at the time, was intrigued by the sound, but realized that only two notes could be played at a time. He engaged a glassblower to make a graduated series of glass bowls, which, when arranged horizontally and mechanically rotated, as many as 10 notes at a time could be played. Franklin called it his harmonica. Consider, as you listen to the harmonica, that over 5,000 were made and were played by many artists, including Marie Antoinette, and composers including Mozart and Beethoven wrote music for it. The assembly and rotation of the glass bowls to form the harmonica might have seemed a conspicuous improvement to Ben Franklin. He might even have said that the invention of the device was plain as a pikestaff. But nobody had thought of it for over 300 years. Franklin's musical aspirations caused him to try composing himself. Listen to Benjamin Franklin's Quartetto for 3 violins and cello. Ben Franklin, geographer on land. As America's first Postmaster General, Franklin traveled widely between the colony's cities. To determine the shortest routes for the transportation of mail, he devised a clockwork odometer which he connected to the wheels of his carriage. He thus measured, for the first time, accurate distances between the nation's new cities. Benjamin Franklin, geographer at sea. Serving several times as a postal authority, Franklin was interested in the speedy transportation on both land and sea. His cousin, a man named Folger, was a whaling captain and told Ben that fishermen knew of a current that accounted for the 5-day shorter trip when crossing the Atlantic west to east. Franklin published a drawing showing the location of the current and is credited with first identifying the Gulf Stream. Captains of so-called speedy packet boats, however, refused to learn from common fishermen and didn't take advantage of the current. After the Revolution, Franklin gave copies of his chart to the America's new French allies. The pinnacle of Ben Franklin's inventiveness lay in his study of electricity, which earned him world renown and for which he was awarded 2 honorary doctorates, one of which was from Cambridge University. Franklin's contribution to the study of electricity is still preserved by our use of the terms he originated: battery, conductor, charge, discharge, negative, minus, plus, electric shock, electrician. All were terms first used by him. Had he not done anything else, Franklin's place in history would have been assured by his kite demonstration that lightning was a form of electricity and his devising of the lightning rod. For centuries, the ringing of church bells was thought to ward off the perils of lightning. However, as a contemporary remarked, in spite of the angel at the summit of the steeple and the bells consecrated to ward off devils and witches, and the holy relics in the church below, the towers were frequently damaged or destroyed by lightning. Between 1750 and 1783, 121 bell ringers were killed by lightning. One storm killed 7 people instantaneously, and 3 of them were bell ringers. In his early experiments in electricity, Franklin observed the similarity between the electrical sparks he generated and lightning. They looked the same, sounded the same, and even smelled the same. Extrapolating from his small experiments to heavenly events, Franklin proposed a lightning rod, saving lives and fortunes ever since. These savings are incalculable, as would the value of an exclusive right to the lightning rod. But Franklin never chose to patent it. In addition to being an inventor, we should remember that Franklin was a printer, and it was he who designed the first paper money of the Continental Congress. In 1775 and 1776, he designed his sundial and Fujio designs for paper money, and these designs were repeated on America's first coin, the Fujio cent and the Franklin cent. Among Ben Franklin's lesser-known inventions were his swim fins. When attached to his hands, he found that they improved his swimming speed, but were impractical because they tired his wrists. Similarly, his 3-wheel clock was a simplification over existing clocks, but again, it proved impractical until improved by others. The Franklin stove was an iron insert that was placed in fireplaces of the time and included baffles that improved the efficiency of the fire in the fireplace. Benjamin Franklin's mind was always active. He also invented the library chair and the robot extension arm. He conceived of cooling by evaporation, daylight savings time, the decision balance sheet, and a phonetic alphabet. He designed street lamps, a copperplate press to avoid counterfeiting, a copying process, and the Franklin Gothic typeface, which is used here. For Pennsylvania, he organized the university, the first public library, the first Pennsylvania Fire Department, the first hospital, for which he originated the Matching Challenge Grant, the American Philosophical Society, and America's Postal Service. He wrote the famous autobiography of Benjamin Franklin, Poor Richard's Almanac, The Way to Wealth, The Morals of Chess, and Advice to a Friend on Choosing a Mistress. And this is just a limited list. A French statesman, in a tribute to Franklin, said, "He stole lightning from the sky and the scepter from tyrants." Franklin made unparalleled contributions to American independence. He co-authored the Declaration of Independence, negotiated the Treaty of Paris, and mentored the writing of the U.S. Constitution. Benjamin Franklin, the first American.